Well, when you start to look at labels and you look at what is in processed food, mostly processed food is the real danger area. We're still not so bad on vegetables, fruits, etc., but any kind of processed food is very likely to have genetically modified ingredients in it. The reason being is, when you read labels, soy is almost in everything, corn is almost in everything, either through cornstarch or syrup. High fructose corn syrup, regular corn syrup, etc., are both highly likely. 88% of that is going to be genetically modified. And then the oils, the corn oil, the soybean oil, etc. Those ingredients are in crackers, cookies, salad dressings, mayonnaise, soy sauce, yogurt. Yes, yogurt. Beef, poultry, fish, insofar as they ate something that was genetically modified, but that may not pose too much of a threat. Cakes, canned soups, chips, potato chips probably not so much because potato chips aren't, but any corn chip, yes. So baby formula even, sadly, because, and to think that babies might be getting something that could be harmful from birth is something to really think about. So why do we have all this in our food and without most of us even knowing about it in the first place? So regulation of genetically modified food. 3 agencies regulate it, USDA and the EPA and the FDA. The EPA and the USDA mostly regulate the initial stages of it, the testing of crops, and the FDA regulates bringing it to market. So, go ahead. Just a picture way of looking at it, the 2 outer ones, EPA and USDA, are involved in the overseeing if the companies are producing crops, if there's an environmental hazard, which we'll get to in another bit. And the FDA is more concerned about if it's going to be a food that we eat that's going to cause a problem. There's an inadequate pre-market review, a lack of post-market oversight, and a failure to require labeling of them. So here's what happens with the regulation of GMO food. First off, there's no mandatory testing process. Companies are not required to turn in any evidence of the human effects of their foods. No requirement for human testing, no requirement for long-term testing, but many companies do turn in evidence. It's totally voluntary, and they do turn in stuff. So it doesn't mean it's not turned in, it just means it's not required. So the results of industry studies can be voluntarily submitted, but here's the thing, the companies can cherry pick all of their results. So any bad results they get don't have to go in, they don't even have to be published. So when we get to the part of the controversy over research, when you read a lot about how scientists agree that there's no problem with genetically modified food, it may have more to do with the fact that that's what's being published than whether that's what's really been found. Why would we even produce this if we thought it might be harmful? Well, agribusiness and policymakers, at least on the face of it, are convinced that genetically modified food is beneficial. They believe that it's cheaper to produce. You can produce more of it. There's a higher yield. They believe that. And that the food is not harmful, that it is nutritionally similar. In some cases, we looked at how they think it's better, the golden rice example. So in their mind, they're doing the world a service. They think that there's no desirable change. They also think there's no environmental issues involved with this. And as I said, it's going to help feed a growing population. Opponents, and these are just two very everybody's in their corner. you either really support it or you really oppose it. There's like hardly any middle road here. Opponents hold that GMO foods do not perform better than traditional foods in the long run, that they are detrimental to the soil and the environment, and that they create a number of health, environmental, social, and ethical concerns. So these are diametrically opposed beliefs, and that's, we're seeing a lot of controversy over this because these are so opposed. Well, the concerns that when you start looking through the literature and all the stuff on the internet, this is the list of things that people are concerned about. Allergies, antibiotic resistance, new pathogens, toxic substances, non-equivalence, meaning the new thing isn't got the same nutrients as the old, less nutritious, that's pretty much saying the same thing. Insect and weed resistance, which is already happening with Roundup. They're going to have to completely make new seeds and make a new poison to put on top of them because the weeds are getting resistant to Roundup. Cross-pollination, which has also been happening. Soil depletion and environmental degradation. I know less about this, but from what I've read, there is problems with stuff getting into the soil, with it depleting the nutrients in the soil. Permanent change to the food supply. This is what really worries me. As things cross-pollinate and as we no longer have any soybeans that aren't genetically modified, how do we ever go back? If we were to discover later on that these are very bad for us, how do we go back? Okay, this is the big picture. It's not just GMOs, it's our whole food production. We need to change it, and the first step is to educate the public about what it is. People take food for granted. They don't realize how much production has changed definitely over the last century, and quite a bit over the last couple decades.